Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Incredibly joyous, upbeat Shabbat morning, celebrating with the Matalon family. And since they are such an integral part of our community, it is a complete Temple Israel and Great Neck celebration. I want to take a few moments to speak about what it means for Jewish people especially to have to face life with struggle. It just seems to be part of what it means to be a Jewish person in the world. And I want to tell you a little story. When I worked at Camp Ramah as a staff member, when I was there as an adult and I was teaching campers, I would often bike into the town of Kent, Connecticut, which was right nearby, with my friend, who is also a rabbi. And as we were biking, we would be talking about, what's going on in our communities. And sometimes we would talk about how complicated Jewish community can be and how complicated it is to ensure that Jewish identity is passed down, and the complexities of anti-Semitism and some of the differences that exist within the Jewish community. And then once when we were having that kind of conversation, we passed by a family that we could just see in their side yard, and they were sitting and they were eating and they were drinking. And it seemed to us that they just didn't have a care in the world. And my friend said to me, I wonder what it would be like to be Gentile. And I thought it was such an interesting thing to say, this kind of fantasy, this almost projection that, boy, oh boy, if we didn't have to carry all the intensity of being Jewish, we could just sit in our backyards and eat and drink and everything would be easy. Now, obviously, we know that life isn't straightforward for anybody, but I think that it is undeniable that in addition to the regular existential worries that human beings have, that Jewish people carry additional worries. We carry worries about what's going to happen internally with the transmission of our traditions. And we carry worries about the external threats, the anti-Semitism that surrounds us. And certainly what's going on in Israel represents the severe existential threat that we face even in our own homeland. So what do we do with all of this struggle? And I want to think about it not just for those who have been doing it for years, but especially for an emerging generation of Jews who on college campuses and post-college are trying to navigate what it means to be a Jewish human being in the world, and they probably weren't expecting it to be quite so hard. In this morning's Torah portion, we have a renaming. Jacob is renamed. Now, naming is very important. Adam Harishon, the first man, names all of the creatures. And then Abraham and Sarah are given new names. They are first Avram and Sarai. They're given new names to reflect their change in status. Jacob is renamed. He's given a new name, and the name is very significant because that is the name that we bear as a people. So after he wrestles with the Ish, with this man, later understood by many to be a kind of celestial being, he is given a new name. Vayomer lo Yaakov ye'amer od shimcha ki im Yisrael. Your name will no longer be Jacob, it's going to be Israel. Yisrael, why? Ki sarita im Elohim ve'im anashim vatuchal. Because you wrestled, you struggled with God, and you struggled with other people, and you prevailed. That's the name. The name has to do with struggle. So I want to unpack that. And obviously, we've been reading, we've been thinking so much. But it is extraordinary that Israel, at this point, after all of these years of being a sovereign nation, still has to worry that her neighbors are going to break through and commit acts that are barbaric and atrocious. that Israel has to fight a war which we need to continue to support because it is actually a war for Israel's survival. And as I said a few weeks ago, I was at one of the kibbutzim where a massacre occurred. It is miles. It is from here, as I said earlier, to Great Neck Middle School in terms of distance. You cannot have an enemy that is that close that can do this kind of barbaric violence and devastation to you. So that is a huge struggle. The second struggle is the struggle on the world stage, that Israel has to defend this war, that there are people who still don't even believe that what happens actually happens, that Israel is being asked to show a kind of restraint that no other country shows. There isn't a decent human being in Israel who is happy about the destruction of innocent Palestinian lives. But nevertheless, Israel is involved in a military operation that will be necessary for her survival. So here we are, having to struggle to fight this fight. We have to do it within communities. We have to do it on college campuses as our college students are being accused of supporting genocide. This is something that we know about. This is a struggle that we didn't ask for. Now, there's a third dimension of struggle, and I think it's something that an emerging generation thinks about. We, and especially the emerging generation, believe in and have fought for equality for all human beings. Equality of all human beings, regardless of racial background, regardless of gender identity. In so many realms, we have been fighting for this in the younger generation especially, and many are feeling that the people for whom they have advocated have not been sufficiently fighting for Jewish safety and for Jewish identity. And here I would say that individual people need to be called out and individual institutions need to be called out. But we need to, in addition to advocating for ourselves, continue to advocate for equality for all people, because that is who we are, because that is part of our essence, part of our identity. And if we lose that, then that's going to be problematic for an emerging generation that believes that Jewish people deserve rights and so do other people as well. And that's going to be a hard struggle because there have been a lot of disappointments lately, and we need to support this emerging generation to say, yes, I care about your rights and you need to care about mine. Because if I am concerned with human rights, Jewish people are also human beings. Jewish people deserve to be able to live and grow and pray and love without being attacked for who they are. So all of these are struggles. And I have to say that I actually believe that our children and grandchildren who are facing these challenges on college campuses and who are establishing themselves as young adults, they didn't expect to have to struggle so much. If they talk to their parents and certainly their grandparents, they'll say, well, guess what? That's what it's like to be a Jewish person in the world. But there were bubbles that occurred for certain decades in certain communities where we thought we were immune. And now we are realizing that we are not immune. So how do we emerge in a way that is mindful of other people, but also deeply protective of ourselves? That is a struggle, but it's a worthwhile struggle. And the final thing that I want to share with us, the reason it's a worthwhile struggle is because it is a glorious gift to live in this world as a Jew. It is a gift to everyone who has that privilege. It is a gift because for millennia, we have struggled to bring decency to a world that is often indecent, to bring care to a world that is often uncaring, to bring an aspiration for peace to a world that is often violent. That is what we do. And if it's hard, nobody said it was going to be easy, but we need to enlist each generation in this struggle of protecting ourselves and also making sure that all of humanity can live in security, and in peace. The very last word I want to leave us with. So Jacob gets a new name. It is our name. We are the children of Israel. We are the people who struggle. The very last word is, if you struggle with God, and that's a separate sermon, especially about an emerging generation that has a lot of theological questions, which we can't ignore. If you struggle with God and if you struggle with other people, vatuchal, you're going to prevail. You're going to be okay. You're going to actually get there. There are times now as we read the news and times that we wait for more hostages to be released and times that we can't believe that we're living in an upside down world where Israel is being called the aggressor when they are to such a large extent being victimized. All of that frustration notwithstanding, we need to understand that we're going to prevail. We're going to protect ourselves, and we're going to put forth a just vision for the world the way that we always did. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may that be God's will for us in each generation. Amen.